Hey, what's up, YouTube? My name is Steven,
My name is Morel.
and welcome back to NHL Opinions.
Make sure you follow us on Twitter.
Perfect, the link will be in the description. Now, what we want to talk to you about today is, well, at this very moment, there's absolutely no Canadian team in the playoff picture. Well, they're in the picture, but if the playoffs were to start today, none of them would be in it. I've never seen this myself. Hasn't happened in, 40 years?
Yeah, I think the last time was maybe in the 70s.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's 7 teams, guys. That's almost a third of the league. So what we're gonna do is we're not gonna sit here and talk about who has the best chance of making it, because we probably know Montreal will sneak in. What I'd rather talk about is like a 5-year projection. So we're gonna talk to you about who we think is gonna have the best chance of winning a Stanley Cup and finally bringing one back to Canada, and just as long as I've been born. So, before we even get started, how do you want to do this? Do you want to go through each team?
Well, I mean, yeah, we could go through each team, each Canadian team, and discuss perhaps their depth chart and what their issues might be, and then just say who our pick would be from each of those 7 teams.
Perfect. So our pick will be at the end. So let's start with the Montreal Canadiens.
I mean, to me, if you look at Montreal, right, if you look at them today, they have a good scoring winger in Pacioretty. They have an upcoming center in Galchenyuk. I just don't know if he's gonna be that horse, that number 1 center. I mean, it's hard to tell. He hasn't been in the league for that long, but so far things are telling me he's not gonna be that horse down the middle. And then on defense, I mean, the only notable name you can probably say is Subban. Other than that, they don't really have any top-end defensemen. And as you can see, the only thing keeping them alive today is goaltending. Well, they would have been alive if Price was there.
That's what's sinking them today. I have a few points to bring up with this Montreal team. I'm going to list them off because I have not told you about these prior to this video, and I want your reaction to them.
Okay.
I don't think Galchenyuk's going to be the top fleet center they need. I don't think Pacioretty is a captain in this league, and it's very questionable right now. And you know I love PK Subban, but he's not looking like the top defenseman they need, and this is all stemming from Carey Price being injured.
So what you're saying is basically Price makes those guys look better than they actually are.
I mean, I would never say that before, but yeah, as of right now, I have to say this.
I think Subban's a really good defenseman. He's won a Norris before, but like you said, the fact that he gets paid so much, I don't know. I just don't see him being the top end defenseman that we all think he is. I mean, $9 million for Subban, to me, just too much.
I definitely agree with that. Especially, we talk about it. They could have bridged him. Obviously, you don't want to bridge someone like that, but I do think $9 million was overpaying.
I mean, they originally bridged him with a 2-year deal. I think it was like 2-point-something million. I would have just gone the route, for example, signed him to 8 years and given him 4.5 or 5 right there, and just ended it there. And then to me, he'd be worth it.
Yeah.
As for Pacioretty, do I think he's a captain or not? To be honest with you, I don't think he is. I think usually, I mean, you can say players lead on the ice, but you also should have a vocal captain. I mean,
right.
If you want a quiet captain, usually the guy's won before. For example, Steve Yzerman. He was a quiet guy, but he knows how to win. So if I was gonna name a captain on this team, I think it would be Brendan Gallagher. I think they just named a captain too soon. They should have just waited the year out and then named the captain after.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, actually. I was going to go the Gallagher route. I think this is someone that would rally the troops, per se. His numbers are up there. That's not how you would judge a captain. But I really think that's someone with fire underneath him that would light this team on fire, which they do need it.
And then, so the other issue would be, is you're saying that Galchenyuk isn't a top flight center, or
I don't think
won't be a top flight center.
I don't see it.
I mean, just looking at his size, he has the size to be a top flight center. He's not a small kid, but to me, he just looks too timid out there to be a top flight center, to be a Kopitar, to be I don't know, some of those big boys in the West. I mean, he's just not there. I don't know. I think maybe it's I think he has the skill to be one. I just think maybe he doesn't have that role model there. I think if they brought in Eric Stahl, for example, then he could fly under him for a bit and then adapt and become a top flight center.
And that's what it comes down to. Because you got to look here and be like, okay, he's your go-to guy. And obviously, right now, when a team's falling like this, you're going to go to the go-to guy, but he hasn't had the chance to develop into that. So this might be hurting him right now.
So in terms of prospect, if we look at Montreal's depth chart, I mean, to me, the way it looks like is they're really forward heavy, and they don't have many defensive prospects. So I think if you were looking in maybe 5 years, I think in 5 years Price would be a really good goaltender.
Oh yeah,
he'd still be a good goaltender, but I think they'd have to make some moves on their defensive end to be there. On forward, I mean, there's a couple guys I like that I've heard about. Sven Andrighetto looks really good, but Charles Hudon looks good. And then I also think Nikita Sherbak. These three guys are going to be their skilled guy, and Michael McCarron's going to be their kind of like power forward.
Right.
The only thing is with all these guys is if you look at their size, they all look too small. So I don't know.
And
I don't know how that's going to translate over into the playoffs if you're looking at winning a cup. I mean, they're skilled, but I just don't see how they're going to last in the playoffs.
And that's the thing. This has always been the case.
Exactly.
With Montreal. They're too small. I'm going to go ahead and say I think Carey Price is the best goalie in the league.
Yeah, I agree with you totally.
I think right now it's actually pretty close between him and Braden Holtby.
I think Holtby just has a better defense core in front of him, so he's able to put up outstanding numbers. I'm not taking anything away from Holtby, but I just think Price is a better goalie.
Especially, I've always been saying Price is the best goalie in the league, but you take a look at what's happening to this team that started 10 wins in a row, now even under Ottawa in the standings.
I mean, yeah, it's just crazy what's happened. To me, they just don't have that horse there,
No.
Like everyone, like Subban, you could say he's a horse, but I mean, I guess he's really showing that he's not that top end guy, or maybe he's just having an off year.
It could be.
But like if you look at other teams, if their goalie's not going, they always have one guy that he's carrying the load. Right now, no one's carrying the load in Montreal.
That's true. And let's move on to Ottawa.
Okay, so I mean, right now with Ottawa, just based on their current roster, they've been saying they've been looking for a top 6 forward, but to be honest with you, I like the scoring on this team. I think they've addressed the issue already. If I were them, I'd be looking for a defenseman more than a top 6 forward. I mean, outside of Erik Karlsson and Mark Mathot, that defense core looks like an AHL defense core to me. So if I was Ottawa, I'd be looking for a defenseman. Goaltending, you can't really blame the goaltending much. They face a lot of shots, and if they're facing a lot of shots, that obviously translates to bad defending.
That's true, it does. Now, you as a personal fan of this team,
it's my favorite team.
Where do you like the direction this team is heading in 5 years' time?
I think the issue with this team is they lack consistency, and because of that, they always have a sense of change in direction. So for example, you look at 2011, I believe they were in a full-on rebuild, and then I think the year right after that they made the playoffs. So then they're like, okay, we're in the playoffs now, so like let's see what we can do. And then they miss the playoffs, and then Alfredson leaves, and then Bobby Ryan comes in. I think they miss the playoffs there again, and then you get rid of Spezza, you miss out on Nick Ritchie, and then it's like, okay, I guess we're rebuilding again, but then they go make the playoffs.
Yeah, this is looking really similar to what's going to happen to Calgary. They make the playoffs. They actually make noise in the playoffs. And this year does not look like they're coming close. So it is really up and down with the Ottawa Senators. I do agree.
In terms of forwards, I think they have a nice top 6 in place.
They do.
They're pretty young. Like I could see these guys still contributing 3, 4, 5 years from now. They don't really have anyone in their top 6 that's old, and you can see maybe a drop off in production unless they're just getting lucky right now. However, in terms of prospects, I think since a lot of their top 6 is young, I think they kind of unloaded the cupboards, and they don't really have that they don't have that go-to prospect. I mean, you look at Nick Paul, they got him from the Spezza trade. Yeah, he's a good piece, but I just don't see him being an elite player in the NHL. I was gonna say Curtis Lazar, he's on their roster right now, but I think they just rushed this kid they rushed him too much, and he's on a defensive role, and it looks like he's never gonna score a goal again in his life. I mean, if I was the team, you could easily find someone else to play that role, and have him be your first line center in the AHL and get his confidence going and get some points. So I think that's where they made a mistake. They rushed him in, and they could have found someone else to fill that role easily.
I do agree with you. I think Curtis Lazar was looking like someone that looks like a future leader of this team.
Yeah.
You know, I really like the way he plays. He has that grit. He's not even that big.
Yeah, exactly.
He plays like a similar role of, well, not right now, but it reminds me kind of Sean Monahan. In Calgary. He plays
a similar role in terms of two-way style, except he's a lot smaller, but he plays a big man games. He kind of reminds me of Mike Richards.
Yeah,
in a way you could say.
That's a good comparison.
Yeah.
Now, let's actually go on to the local heroes, the Toronto Maple Leafs. This is an interesting team. What is it? Is Babcock their highest paid personnel? Is that true?
Yeah, no, I guess if you, I don't know, if you went by cap hit, I think the only guy that would be getting more is Phaneuf.
I think so. Yeah, you're right.
But I mean, you can't really say anything about this team right now.
No.
I mean, this roster is gonna look completely different, and not even in 3 years, just next season itself. So we can't really. I mean, it's too difficult to comment on the current roster. There's a couple of guys that I could still see being here.
Right.
4 or 5 years from now. But other than that, I mean, you can't really comment on what you think. So you can't really comment on what a guy like, for example, Brad Boyes is gonna be doing.
No.
I mean, do you know what I mean? So like, who do you see on this roster that's gonna be there in a few years?
No, I don't see too many names, but I will go through the roster. I see Bozak being here. I see Leo Komarov being here. I'm actually pretty iffy on Kadri. I don't know if they continue forward with him for much longer. I see JVR still being here, and Gardner and Riley. Those are the only players I do see going forward being on this team.
I agree with you to a certain extent. I think they need to keep Komarov. I mean, they're talking about blowing it up and all that stuff, but he's signed.
Can't get rid of everyone.
You need guys to play, and he's signed for past next season as well. So you may as well keep him. If you're trying to get rid of guys, get rid of rentals. To me, with the Kadri Bozak situation, I think they're gonna have to pick between one of Kadri or Bozak, and that's just gonna come down to who Mike Babcock likes more, in my opinion. Yeah. I think management's gonna discuss it. Lou's probably gonna have his voice. I think Lou probably likes Bozak more than Kadri, but Babcock seems really high on Kadri right now. So
yeah, that's true too.
If I was to bet on who's staying, it would be Kadri, and I think they would trade Bozak, especially since his value is high right now, since he's playing well.
Well, he just went ahead and proved everyone wrong that he needed Kessel to be effective.
Exactly. So, I mean, I think in this situation, they should maybe... if I was the Leafs, I'd probably trade Bozak while he has high value and look to gain more pieces for the future. And then, obviously, JVR stays. And then if you look at their defense, I think Morgan Riley and Jake Gardner, without a question, those two would be there.
Yeah.
Phaneuf, it's hard to say. Babcock seems pretty high on him this year, but I think they keep him. But if a team gets desperate and they say, "Hey, I really need Phaneuf right now," and they offer the Leafs, and Leafs don't have to retain salary, I think Leafs go ahead and trade him
for 100%.
Yeah, but at this point, I see them keeping him unless someone blows their socks off.
What do you think happens with Bernie and Reimer short term?
Short term, basically the way I see it is Babcock likes Reimer more than Bernier. He's not too fond of Bernier. The only thing is, I think Babcock actually doesn't like either of these guys. He doesn't like how the fact that Reimer's always getting hurt.
Yeah, that's true too.
I think that's been pissing him off, and then he doesn't like the fact that Bernier is not always performing. So short term, as far as the Leafs, I mean, Reimer's stock is really high right now. I'd trade Reimer at the deadline if someone needs a goalie, because he's gonna be a UFA at the end of the summer.
I agree with you, but I do really like the scope of this team moving forward. You know, I think they are actually in a really good situation with a lot of expiring, so we know they're going to move a lot of players at the deadline. I really like their young forwards as well, like the AHLers.
Yeah, their AHL team does look really good. I'll have to agree with you there. I mean, they have a lot of skill. They have. I think they're like Montreal. They have a lot more forward prospects than defense, but I like the Toronto Maple Leafs defensive prospects more than Montreal's.
I actually, you know what? Might be early to say this, but I think Toronto's looking like it has one of the best minor league prospects. And this is a team 10 years ago we'd say they had no one in their cupboards.
No, I agree with you, but you look at a guy like you look at how size comes into effect and how guys like Arcabello in the NHL he wasn't doing much, but if you look at his AHL stats, he's over a point per game.
Oh yeah.
So to me the concern is, are these smaller guys going to be able to translate that over? So for example, a guy like Nylander, I think he'll be a good NHLer. I think
so.
I think he'll be a good NHLer, but a guy like Kapanen, I'm sort of concerned how he'll be. I don't know if he'll be a scorer. I feel like maybe he'll be a top 9 guy rather than a top 6.
I don't see him as a scorer either.
And then you look at the guys they drafted. They drafted Marner. I mean, Marner's skill is you can't debate that. It's unreal. But again, comes in the factor, is he going to be able to get away with that at the NHL level? So you'll just have to see. I think the only issue with their forward prospects outside of Freddie Gauthier, like a lot of them are too small. So I think they're gonna have to address that. And also on defense, I mean,
they're pretty big on defense.
They're big on defense, but I'm just not too fond of their prospect depth on defense. I think this year, I mean, if they don't draft in the top 3, I think they should draft a defenseman, because so far the top 3 looks like it's gonna be all forwards.
It's forward heavy, yeah. Well, I mean, trade deadline's still a month away?
Yeah, approximately.
So I do see them stocking up in draft picks. I mean, if we look here quickly at the forwards again, I see Matthias getting traded for a pick, but potentially P.A. Parenteau. Probably he's gone.
If I were them, I'd trade Parenteau, but he's had a good year. I'd trade him, and then I'd consider bringing him back in the summer.
That's a good. That kind of like Matt Molson.
Yeah, except don't pay him as much as Matt Molson. I can see them maybe trading Grabner. I just don't see. I don't know.
They don't get much for him.
Grabner has a high cap hit. Obviously, it would be reduced at the trade deadline, but I don't know if they'd be able to retain any more salary. I think they may have reached the limit. So I don't know. We'd have to see with that one. I say they could trade a guy like Brad Boyce, but I just don't see any teams being takers on him.
That's true, right? What do you do with Joffrey Lupul?
I mean, to me, I just don't see a team taking him right now at his cap hit.
I don't see it either. You know, I've never been too low on him. I haven't been exactly high just due to the injury troubles.
To me, I mean, in my opinion, Lupul's a good player when he's not injured, but it's like, okay, I'm only getting 35 games of production out of you, so I think if you were to trade Lupul, I think a scenario could be, for example, I mentioned it to you before off air, maybe trade him to New Jersey for Ryan Clough. So basically, how Leafs traded David Clarkson for Nathan Horton.
Right.
We know New Jersey's a budget team, so maybe they'd rather have Lupul in their lineup for 50 games a season than not having Clough ever in their lineup. Yeah. So I mean, that's the only situation where I can see Lupul getting traded, or if they retain salary, but I wouldn't want to retain salary on Lupul's contract.
No, exactly.
Considering it's until 2018.
Now let's move on to Winnipeg. Now this is a funny team. I'm high on them. You're high on them. But what's wrong with this team?
I think they're outside of the Kane trade last year. I think their GM is too passive. He lacks movement. So then I think they always get caught. And like right now, you have Bufflin unsigned and you have Ladd unsigned.
Right.
And I think just that there brought a lot of question into the team and probably caused a distraction, and that's why they're not in a playoff spot. They also lack goaltending, but Hellebuyck has stepped up. I'm very fond of his play, but I mean, I think that was their Achilles heel. I mean, you look at Pavlik, he let in a goal against St. Louis, and everyone's like, oh my god, Jets are going to miss the playoffs. Pavlik just screwed up.
Yeah.
And then he ended up, after that, he was dominating. So, I mean, this is a wild card team to me. To me, they're the equivalent of the Ottawa Senators, except in Western Canada. Very inconsistent.
Very.
They have guys there, but I think they have better players than Ottawa on paper. It's just they're inconsistent. I mean, I love the players they have on paper, and I love their coaching staff, but I think the goaltending is the issue.
Yeah, my take on it is, why do they have Pavlik right now? Because, he's shown flashes of being brilliant. Michael Hutchinson, same thing last year. This year with Hellebuyck. I don't think these three will amount to anything for them. I think they need a legitimate number one goaltender when it's all said and done. I think that's a big issue.
I disagree with you there. I think Hellebuyck has the potential to be a number one goalie.
But that's all we've seen from this team is potential that's never panned out into anything.
No, I totally agree with you. I mean, he's only played 19 games. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's a small sample size. But, I mean, he has potential. I mean, Hutchinson and Pavlik have shown potential. Pavlik's been showing potential since Atlanta. But Hellebuyck's not even 23 yet.
I agree, but think of it in the terms of the Winnipeg fans.
Okay.
Try telling them they gotta wait.
No, you know what? I agree with you. I don't think Hellebuyck's a number one starter. I think he can give you next year. He can give you 30 games.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna go out there and trade the barn to get a number one goalie away. I mean, if you look at their prospects, they have other goalie prospects. They have Comrie. He's supposed to be really good as well, and he's not even 21 yet. So, I mean, I think goaltending wise, in terms of prospect, they're probably one of the better Canadian teams in terms of that.
I think overall they're one of the better Canadian teams.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I just think they need to sort out the Ladd Bufflin situation. With Bufflin, I've said it before, there's no other player like him.
Mm-mm.
But that being said, he's going to ask for money like no other one on this roster. So,
that's true.
And not just money, term. And to me, the issue is at 6'5", that's a good size, but 265 pounds on a good day.
And usually over 300 pounds before training camp.
Yeah, and at age 31, how long do you want to sign this guy for?
I agree with you on that, but we pretty much know it's going to come down to either Ladd or Bufflin.
I agree.
Who would you be more comfortable with?
I'd be more comfortable signing Andrew Ladd just because he's their captain, and I think on defense they're a lot more stable than they are on. I mean, I think they're stable on forward too, but I just don't see how you can replace.
You can't replace a good captain.
I don't. To be honest, I don't see how you can replace Bufflin either or Ladd, but I think you can fill the void better with Bufflin leaving just because they're better. They have better defensemen and they're more of a defensive team.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think you can get rid of a team captain. You're right. That does play a huge role into it. I do think their defense overall, even if you take out Bufflin, is not looking too bad.
No, I mean, you have good defensemen there. Jacob Trouba is a hell of a defenseman. Toby Enstrom, I think, is underrated in my opinion.
Is underrated.
Tyler Myers, good defenseman. Mark Stewart's a good shutdown defenseman. So that's your top four right there. And I think they'd be able to shut down any team.
Yeah. It's just goaltending a little squeaky right now. Forwards can't score right now.
I mean, yeah, they can't score, but I mean, they have the guys there in place.
Oh, yeah.
It's just I think it might be just an off year. I don't know. I mean, hey, you could say they could use an Evander Kane right about now, can't you?
I mean, it still worked out to be a pretty good trade for them, but you're right. That's something they're missing. That was a spark.
Because outside of Blake Wheeler, they just don't have anyone putting up points.
No, you're right. Now let's move on to my team, the Calgary Flames. I would tell you before this year started that Calgary was going to be third in the Pacific.
And I'd agree with you.
And you would agree with me. I think a lot of people would agree. They didn't get any worse over the year. It's just strange how this whole season has panned out. What do you think about this team?
I mean, to me, they remind me of Colorado, where they drafted Nathan McKinnon first overall 2013. The next year they made the playoffs, and then the year after that they missed. To me, that's what they remind me of, and I think they're in a similar position, but I think they're a better team than that Avalanche team, which is why they're closer to making the playoffs than the Avalanche were, for example, last year.
I agree. I mean, I hate when people put analytics into it. I know nothing about the Corsi for all that. I just know the numbers were terrible. I don't tend to believe it's on that. I think goaltending is a huge issue here.
I'd have to agree with you. I think, to be honest with you, I think goaltending was the issue, and I think they lacked chemistry in their defense at the start of the year. And you could partially put that on the blame by missing TJ Brody, and then being injured, and then I guess Dougie Hamilton maybe not being acclimated to the situation there.
Exactly.
But I think they're starting to look more comfortable, but it's still not where they'd like it to be, in my opinion.
No, and there's a few question marks on this team, mainly being Yuri Hudler. He hasn't even come close to his performance of last season. So it's a question mark what's going to go on with him. I do believe we are going to trade him. Also, Dennis Wideman. I know he has another year on his contract. I don't see him being here by trade deadline.
So you're saying that he gets shipped out trade deadline?
I think he gets shipped out trade deadline, yeah.
I think he gets shipped out trade deadline if you have a bad contract coming in, or if you retain some salary. That's one scenario. I mean, I really like Dennis Wideman.
I do too.
He's a good offensive defenseman in my opinion. However, he just has too high of a cap hit. I think it's above $5 million, and what he brings to the table to me is not over $5 million.
It's not on this team. It doesn't look good what he's doing. On another team, this would look amazing. For your Ottawa Senators,
I mean,
he would bring a lot.
I actually do agree with you, because on this team you have a lot of alpha dogs.
Minded.
You have a lot of alpha dogs on defense, so I think he just kind of gets pushed down.
He's buried, yeah.
And he's maybe not as defensively strong as those guys. I agree with you. I mean, I guess you're saying on Ottawa, yeah, he would look good on Ottawa, and I'm not gonna lie about that. But I think Ottawa needs that defensive guy, but I think he would look good in a lot of places. Just a lot of teams are hesitant to pick up a $5 million player who they're not too high on, because maybe he doesn't look as good.
That's true. I do agree with that. One thing I don't want to see happening is Chris Russell getting shipped out or not being re-signed.
I think if Chris Russell leaves, your defense will struggle.
It will struggle mightily. I don't see why people are not putting... I think people are not putting stock into what he does. Shot blocking mastermind he is.
He makes your goalies look better than they are, and they don't look too good right now.
No.
To me, Chris Russell to me, he's similar to Mark Giordano, not in terms of style of play, just perseverance. I mean, you look at Giordano. He was a fringe NHL player, went to Russia, came back. Now he's you can argue that he's a superstar. Chris Russell, fringe NHL player, keeps getting traded around, comes to Calgary, finds his niche there, shot blocker. Now you know what he is, defensive defenseman. Exactly. And I think he's a good leader on this team. So I think if they lose him via free agency or trade, you're losing a lot of heart on that defense core. And I think if they were gonna keep him, they need to find a way to get rid of Schmid's contract.
Yes.
Or Dennis Wideman, or Derek Engelland.
I agree, and Calgary has always been this machine that just keeps churning out defensemen. Because even I look at their minor league defensemen. You got Tyler Wotherspoon, Pat Seeloff. Those are two I'm highly big on. It doesn't matter who you replace the bottom six with.
I agree with you. And then after Wotherspoon and Seeloff, you also have I believe it's Anderson. I'm not 100%. He's on Barrie. He's a Swedish defenseman, and then you have Oliver Shillington. I'm really high on those guys. Oliver Shillington
draft for us
was looking like at the start of last year was looking like
the first rounder.
He could be. Yeah, he was actually could have been ranked the top European skater. Yeah. So I think you guys stole him from the draft. And in terms of forward prospects, you have a lot of them in your lineup right now. Mm-hmm. But I think Poirier could turn out to be something. I mean,
I think so.
Poirier or Klimchuk, but right now, you guys don't have too many forward prospects considering most of them are in your lineup now.
No, exactly. This rebuild was just absolutely put on fast forward. The only thing we are missing is a goaltender. Even through the minor leagues, I don't see a potential starter for us anytime soon.
I like John Gillies.
I like Gillies, but I've been a fan long enough to see our potential goalies pan out into nothing. Leland Irving being namely one. Yanni Ortio I was high on. That isn't going well right now. I don't know what we're going to do with him.
Yeah, he looks like he's struggling in the AHL as well.
Exactly.
I think that's the thing with goaltending. It's just all about confidence, and actually it's just with any position.
That's true.
So the next team's Edmonton.
Let's take a look at the Oilers. Stanley Cup favorite.
I mean this
every year.
This team, I don't know. They look like you look at their roster actually just on forward, and you think they're a Stanley Cup favorite. And then you just see what goes on in their back end and in the crease, and you just shake your head. You're like, what's going on here? Why is this happening? I mean, I think with McDavid being there, they caught a big-time break, which they're not deserving of. Which they're not deserving of.
They don't deserve that.
They did not deserve McDavid, but he's there, and I think that kind of pushes them to make the moves they should have made a couple of years ago. For example, move out one of their skilled guys for a defenseman.
I agree with you on that. Just the philosophy this team employed, signing their players based on potential rather than production.
I agree.
I totally disagree with that. But I'm going to say this. This probably will be the first NHL team to have made it to the finals, and probably their next time they make the playoffs will make it back to the finals.
Okay, I see. I can see what you mean by that. I mean, I've been trying to predict this team for such a long time, and they look good at the end of one season. You're like, okay, they're gonna be good next year, and then it just blows up. I mean, there's a lot of things I like, and there's a lot of things I dislike.
Yes.
I like Leon Draisaitl. I like Taylor Hall.
Those two.
I like McDavid.
Magnificent. McDavid is great.
I mean, those guys to me are staples. I'm not high on Nugent Hopkins.
I'm not either.
I mean, for his production at $6 million, to me, that's just ridiculous. That's too much. And like you said, they signed him based on potential.
They signed him based on potential.
Neil Yakupov, I think, to me, he's not a first overall pick. He shouldn't have. I mean, but at that year, I think everyone would have said Neil Yakupov first overall pick. Yeah, just what he did in junior. But the way you can see his NHL game is he's not that alpha dog on forward. He can't run the play himself. He needs someone to lead him. So McDavid was doing that. I think McDavid could do that with anyone though.
I think so.
So I think that's just like a compliment to Connor McDavid, not Neil Yakupov, how Neil was performing. And then Jordan Eberle, I think he's a good player, but I mean, what he brings to the team, they already have that in terms of skill.
They have it everywhere.
Yeah.
That's
what they have. And that's all he brings them. So I think you can't say he brings them experience. What experience? No. They haven't been to the playoffs.
Exactly. And when they end up drafting Austin Matthews first overall this year, this team is going to look even better than it is right now. Defense, I like Clefbaum and Darnell Nurse. All the other guys, I'm not really big on them. I mean, Sekera was, I guess,
It brought stability to their defense core, but they overpaid him.
I did not get that signing.
To me, I think it brought stability, but they just overpaid him. And they've been doing that in the past, so why not? They did that with Fane, they did that with Fane, so hey, why not go do it again?
It just, you look here and you say, why hasn't anything been done about this? Especially if you look at their goaltending. They just re-signed Cam Talbot to a 3-year extension, which I do not get.
I disagree with that as well.
It just does not make sense to me. You could have easily found the number one goalie, in my opinion, by now. I don't know what the big thing is about going for the backup goalies from good teams.
The way I look at the NHL is you have 10 elite goaltenders, and then maybe even 10's pushing it. But
yeah, I don't even think there's 10 anymore.
I'd say maybe there's 7. Somewhere between 5 to 7, like elite goaltenders. Like, if those guys can win you a playoff series, basically. Yeah. That type of goaltender.
Like put the team on their back.
Like a Carey Price, except like 5 others maybe that just aren't as good.
Right.
But to me, I think Talbot last year looked great in New York because it's New York. The style of defense they play. And I think he's going to be hung out to dry in Edmonton if they don't fix their defense. And to me, it doesn't make sense why you sign him to $4.1 million. Like,
no,
I don't see any other team giving him $4.1 million in the open market. So why do you have to give him $4.1 million?
I think this was more Edmonton having to stick by their guns because they made such a huge commitment. Oh, no, we're gonna have Talbot. He's gonna be our number one goalie. Which at this point he's a 1A.
Exactly, but why do you have to give a 1A $4.1 million? I mean, Chiarelli.
Save face.
Everyone's saying Chiarelli's a smart GM. The Sagan trade was a mistake, but I mean, to be honest with you, I don't like what he's doing. He's just watching right now.
No, that's it.
He's just watching and reacting accordingly to what he should be doing just to not look stupid. Oh, I traded for Talbot. I'm going to sign him.
Exactly.
Okay, well, he could have signed him to a 1 year or 2 year. And I think Talbot would be more than happy to accept it at $2 million.
And he's not young either. Talbot's almost 29.
Exactly. If he was 25, I'd be like, hey, you know what? Okay. What he's shown me at the age of 25, okay, that would have been great.
Exactly.
But he signed through this deal. He's going to be almost 33 by the time it ends.
You pretty much know what he is at this point.
Yeah, he's a 1A. I mean, I disagree with this move. I don't like it, and they're just losing cap space.
And despite all this, I still think Edmonton is the closest team in 5 years to win the Stanley Cup.
For me, it's a different team. Let's just go through the last Canadian team, and then I'll state my opinion.
Now, here's my worst favorite team in the league.
I really dislike this team.
Even away from me being a Flames fan. I don't even hate Edmonton as much.
I just dislike how they operate.
The Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah.
Don't like anything about them. Now, let's look at the roster here.
To me, their roster looks really mixed up. Like, you have a lot of old guys and you have a lot of young guys.
Yeah, and I don't even know what they're supposed to be at this point.
I think
competing.
I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to, basically the new term is retool. So that's rebuild on the fly.
Right.
They're basically trying to rebuild while still trying to make the playoffs.
What Calgary failed for, 4 or 5 years after not making the playoffs, being a bubble team.
I mean, to me, it's hard to tell what this team is, or how good they could be because of the Sedins. I think they always carry that team.
Yeah.
And I think the only reason they're even competing for a playoff spot right now is because of the Sedins. And Ryan Miller shows old forms of his old self, except he's getting older right now, so I don't think he's doing it as consistently as before. No. In terms of forwards, I mean, I like the young guys this team has, but I just don't.
I do too.
I just don't like the skill they have there.
No.
They're young guys. Mesh. They're young guys, but to me, it just doesn't make sense. They're all two-way forwards.
Yeah, it just this team doesn't mesh.
They have Sven Barchi, skilled guy, but I just don't see his skill translating at NHL level anymore.
No.
2-3 years ago, I'd tell you, you know what, this guy's really skilled. It's gonna translate, but
of course,
I don't see it anymore. I mean, it's been too long. Same thing with Emerson Edom.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
To me, those two guys are washes. You know, you're just trying to restructure their careers, but I just don't see it working out anymore. Exactly. Unless they do something miraculous this off-season training.
I like Bo Horvat on this team.
I like Bo Horvat. I think he's a gritty guy, but I don't see Bo. I don't. It's hard to tell. I mean, I'm not a scout, and he's only been in the league 2 years. But from what I see from Bo Horvat, he doesn't seem like to me like that horse that's going to be on center. To me, Bo Horvat looks like he's going to be a very good second line center.
Let's put it this way: I would not have traded Schneider for Bo Horvat.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Like, to me, Sean Monahan in Calgary looks like a number one center.
Oh, my goodness. 100%.
Bo Horvat, who was drafted 3 spots later, to me does not look like a number one center. He will be a very good player, but I just don't see him being the replacement for Henrik Sedin.
Exactly. I think it's like the Galchenyuk situation. It's not going to pan out how they want it to be. They paid such a high price for him.
I agree. I mean, and Bo Horvat got drafted higher than Max Domi.
There you go.
If you ask anyone in the hockey world today, they'd say I'd rather have Max Domi.
And I don't know. What do you think of their defense?
Okay, well, I look at their defense and I'm asking myself, what is Jim Benning doing signing Lucas Pisa to, I don't even know what it was, I think 4-point-something million. To me, that's just ridiculous. They have Hamius, who's expiring. I think he brings stability to their defense, but I don't see him coming back.
No.
And so the same goes for Radim Verbata on forward. I think if they're trying to say they're trying to build a youth movement and sending Higgins down because we don't have a spot for you on this team, we're trying to play our young guys, then what's your excuse for bringing back Verbata?
That's true. I tend to agree with you. I do like Alex Edler as their horse, though.
I like Edler. To me, I think Edler is he's a good defenseman. I just don't see him being a top 2 defenseman. To me, he's a top 4.
Not anymore. Yeah,
he's a top 4. Same with Chris Tanev. Ben Hutton, I don't know if he's gonna be a top 2 center. I don't know. I think he's 6'2", but he needs to fill out.
Yeah.
He needs to be over 200 pounds if he wants to be that horse on the back end.
I do really feel like this team lost its heart when Kevin Bieksa got traded.
Exactly, but they're trying to say they're going with a youth movement, so I guess that's why they followed through with that trade. I mean, to me,
it's not working.
Same with Kessler. Kessler leaving.
Yeah,
I mean, if I were them, how good would
mistake.
Kessler look there right now with those kids?
Exactly.
I mean, have Kessler there, and then you have Jared McCann and Bo Horvat.
Well, it tells you something when they want to leave.
Exactly. And then, I mean, let's take a look at their prospects. I mean, they have Virtanen up there. They have McCann, and they have, what's his name, Horvat. I mean, again, you look at their prospects, again, what I'm noticing a trend in the Canadian teams, all I notice is they lack defensive prospects. But on forward prospects, they have Cole Castles. Again, he looks like he's going to be a 2-way player. He had a great Memorial Cup last year. Hunter Shinkaruk, I just don't think he's going to be a good NHLer.
You don't think so?
He's 5'10", 181.
I don't think he's going to be a bad NHLer.
I mean, I just don't.
He won't fill out. That's for sure.
I just don't think he's going to be anything past a second line guy.
Yeah, no.
And I don't know if he'll even get to be a second line guy. Is what I'm trying to say.
Probably not.
And then
I do see potential in him though.
And then Brendan Gaunce, they drafted him in the first round in 2012. I mean, another 2-way guy. They just don't have. They basically don't have an elite guy anymore. They don't have those Sedins there. So when the Sedins are gone, who do you have? I don't know.
Sedins are 35 already?
Yeah, they're gonna wash out soon. I mean, they're great players, and the fact that they've been doing it this long is just amazing. I think they're underrated for that.
Yeah, they very underrated.
And don't get me started with goaltending. I mean, they don't have any goaltending prospects. Actually, they do. They have Thatcher Demko, who's in college, but I just don't know. I mean, to me, after Miller, I don't know if Jacob Markstrom's a starter. Maybe by that time Miller's gone, you hope they sign someone else. Thatcher Demko comes in, or maybe Markstrom goes back to the potential that he was supposed to be.
I just don't know what this team did with
yeah.
You get rid of Luongo, you get rid of Schneider, you get rid of Lack.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Like, that was just a fire, like a dumpster fire.
Like, I don't get it. They're like, oh, hey, we have this good goalie here. Okay, take him.
Yeah.
Because we have another one that we're going to use. Oh, wait, we're going to get rid of him too.
Oh, Miller was down all year, and Lack carried us to the playoffs. No problem. Let's just trade him.
Yeah, to me, this team's a mess.
It's a mess. It's a dumpster fire, and I'm happy to see it.
Okay, so basically looking at since we looked at these teams in depth, so who's your pick? You were saying your pick actually is Edmonton.
I gotta say Edmonton. I hate to say it. I would love to say Calgary or Toronto, but it's not gonna happen. It's gonna be Edmonton.
The way I look at it, Edmonton. If Edmonton gets Austin Matthews, I'll be like, I'm gonna quit watching hockey because
they will.
If they get Austin Matthews, I'm just gonna be like, okay, they have so many top forward prospects that they can actually just trade them for defensemen.
They'll draft first again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to see Edmonton win. Just the fact that they've won this many lotteries, I don't want to see them win, and I don't think they will win. To me, if there's a team that's gonna win it, I think it's Winnipeg Jets. I mean. We were talking about Kevin Cheveldayoff being too passive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I agree that he is too passive, but their drafting is just phenomenal.
Their drafting is amazing.
I mean,
less is more with this team.
The fact that when they draft, it's not the first round guys. You know, everyone can hit on those first round guys. Oh, they make the play. They're good players. Mm-hmm. It's easy to get a first rounder that comes through, but it's like those fifth rounds, those sixth rounds, the third rounds, you know, really those rounds, that's where they come in. And if you look at their depth chart, I mean, they just have a bunch of guys. They have Nick Ehlers in their roster. They have Scheifele. They've drafted him. Mm-hmm. I mean, Nick Petan got a shot with this team. He was drafted second round. Chase DeLeo looks like, I mean, he was drafted fourth round. I mean, I think he could be a good NHLer, maybe on the fourth line. Same with Brendan Lemieux. They got him in the Buffalo trade.
Yes,
I think he'd be an amazing third liner. I mean, and then I don't know, man. Like, this team to me just has the best prospects going in. Defense, they have Josh Morrissey. I mean, I just like what this team's doing. And then I mentioned before Comrie. I think Hellebuck and Comrie could make a good duo.
That remains to be seen. I think they are just a goalie away and signing Ladd and Buffalo away. Realistically, this team is set.
Yeah.
They
have everyone in place there. Yeah.
It's like, show me what you got now. And but I do think 5 years time this team looks good still.
I think to me 5 years time, if they pull off the right moves, they should, out of all the Canadian teams, I think they have the best shot.
That would be my second choice. I do think just for, I don't know, some almighty power, Edmonton's going to win the cup the next time they make the playoffs. I'm not even saying they will make the playoffs for the next 4 years. But when they do, they'll go all the way.
Okay.
All right, guys. We appreciate you listening. Tune in for our next episode.
Thanks for watching, guys.